What if the moment she fears losing you isn't when you walk away, but when she realizes you're no longer watching? What if true strength isn't about silence or distance? It's when your energy evolves beyond her reach. And what if the final blow isn't heartbreak, but indifference? A calm so complete it turns memory into mystery. There's a moment, a very specific moment, when a woman realizes she might have lost you. Not temporarily, but forever. And it doesn't happen when you argue, when you say goodbye, or when you disappear for a day or two. No, it happens when she feels that you've changed. When she senses that the emotional grip she once had on you is gone. See, most men don't recognize this shift because they're too busy trying to fix things, explain themselves, or hold on. But a man who understands his value, a man who embodies calm, strength, and inner control, triggers something far deeper. Today we're going to break down the exact moments when she starts fearing that you're truly slipping away. And as we go through each one, remember this: a stoic man doesn't lose people. He simply outgrows what no longer aligns with his peace. Let's get into it. Number 1, the day you stop seeking closure. She expects you to crave answers, to reach out hoping for clarity, for that one last conversation to make sense of it all. That's what most men do. They wait for explanations, for validation, for a reason to finally let go. But when you walk away without needing that final word, without looking back, it shakes her in a way she didn't anticipate, because in that moment, she realizes something profound. You've already found closure within yourself. True strength isn't in getting answers from someone else, it's in understanding, like the Stoics taught, that you don't control what happens, you control how you respond to what happens. Epictetus reminded us that it's not events that disturb us, but our judgment about them. When you embrace that mindset, you stop needing her to explain why things ended, why she changed, or why she walked away. You no longer hand over your peace of mind in exchange for words that deep down won't change anything. Now imagine how that feels from her side. She was prepared for the usual pattern for you to linger to ask, "Can we talk?" Or, "What really happened?" But instead you chose silence. You chose acceptance. That's when fear creeps in. Not because you're punishing her, but because she senses that you've reached a place where she no longer has emotional leverage over you. When you stopped seeking closure, you proved that you are the kind of man who doesn't stay trapped in unanswered questions. You let your inner peace be your answer. And that, my friend, is rare. Most people are prisoners of what if and why. But a stoic man knows that real freedom comes when you close the chapter yourself, without bitterness, without blame, just calm acceptance. That's the day she realizes you're no longer holding on. And nothing is more final, more unsettling to her than knowing you've already let go on your terms. So before we dive into what happens next, take a moment to reflect. Have you been waiting for answers that deep down you don't really need? Or have you already embraced the power of moving forward without them? If today's message resonates with you, I want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and share your experience, or simply type "I choose peace over answers" to remind yourself and others that true closure comes from within. And if you're finding value in this mindset shift, don't forget to like the video. It helps spread this message to more men who need to hear it. Now let's continue, because what happens after you let go is where things truly get interesting. Number 2, when you start choosing peace over attention. Most men panic when a woman pulls away. They chase. They seek validation. They try to remind her they're still there, hoping that attention will fix what's slipping away. But you're not most men. When you choose peace over attention, when you decide that your mental clarity, your emotional balance, and your inner calm matter more than a fleeting message or her occasional interest, that's when everything shifts. She expects you to reach out to prove you still care, to fight for a connection that's already become unstable. But instead, you go silent, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. You understand what the Stoics have always taught. If you are disturbed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke. So you revoke it. You stop giving power to her attention, her replies, or lack thereof. You reclaim your peace. Now here's where it gets interesting. A man who doesn't seek attention becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability creates mystery. She starts wondering why you're not reacting like everyone else. Why aren't you checking in? Why aren't you trying to get back on her radar? That silence, that calm detachment, it unsettles her because it sends a clear message: you're fine without her. And that's when fear creeps in. Not the fear of losing someone who's desperate to stay, but the fear of losing a man who's genuinely content on his own path. A man who has learned that no amount of external validation is worth sacrificing his inner peace. This is the moment. She fears losing you forever. When she realizes you're no longer playing the game of attention and response. You've elevated above it. You've chosen the quiet strength of self-control over the noise of chasing someone's approval. And once a man discovers that kind of freedom, it's nearly impossible for anyone to pull him back into emotional dependence. So remember, every time you choose peace over attention, you're not just walking away from drama. You're stepping deeper into the kind of life where you are enough with or without her. And that realization, it lingers in her mind far longer than any words ever could. Number 3. When she notices you're unbothered by her distance, women often create space, not always because they want to leave, but to observe how you'll react. It's subtle, almost invisible if you're not paying attention. But make no mistake, it's a test. A test of your emotional discipline, your sense of self, and your ability to stay grounded when things feel uncertain. Sadly, most men fail this test without even realizing it. The moment she pulls back, they panic. They rush to fill the silence, asking questions, seeking reassurance, trying to fix what they assume is broken. They believe that closing the gap quickly will restore balance, but what they don't see is that their reaction exposes exactly what she's looking for: emotional dependence. But you're not like most men. When she creates distance, you don't chase it. You don't let anxiety dictate your next move. Instead, you remain calm, composed, and entirely unbothered by her silence. You treat it for what it is, her choice, not your crisis. And that's when everything changes. She expects a reaction. She anticipates the typical messages. Is everything okay? Did I do something wrong? Or why are you pulling away? She's seen it before, but this time she's met with something she didn't prepare for. Your silence, your serenity, your unwavering presence. That's when the real fear begins to surface. Because a man who doesn't flinch when a woman withdraws is a man who clearly doesn't rely on her attention to feel secure. Like Marcus Aurelius standing firm amidst the storms of life, you show her that external shifts, her moods, her tests, her temporary absence, hold no power over your inner state. And this is where Stoicism truly shines. The Stoics didn't preach indifference. They preached mastery. Mastery over the only thing you can truly control, your response. You embody that wisdom. You've accepted a fundamental truth. Her distance is not a problem for you to solve. It's simply a reflection of her own state, and it's hers to own. Meanwhile, your peace remains intact because you've learned the discipline of not overthinking, not reacting emotionally, and not giving away your power just to feel momentarily reassured. That's when something shifts, not in you, but in her. That's when she begins to fear losing you. Not because you stormed off in anger, not because you tried to make her jealous or play games, but because you didn't chase when she pulled away. You quietly broke the pattern she was counting on. And in doing so, you flipped the dynamic. Suddenly she realizes she's no longer in control of how this story plays out. You are. Because the man who doesn't fear distance is the man she can't easily predict nor easily replace. Take a moment to reflect. Are you reacting out of fear or standing firm in confidence? Her distance isn't a threat, it's a chance to show your strength. Remember, calm speaks louder than chasing. Share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's move on to how this quiet strength shifts the entire dynamic in your favor. Number 4. When you no longer watch her life from afar, she knows. Trust me. She always knows when you're still there, quietly lingering in the background, watching her stories, liking the occasional post, leaving just enough digital footprints to remind her that you're still orbiting her world. You might think you're being subtle, that you're maintaining distance while keeping an eye on things. But to her, every view, every like, every silent interaction is a clear confirmation you haven't truly let go. It tells her that despite the silence, despite the space between you, she still holds a part of your attention. And that, my friend, feeds her ego more than any message ever could. It reassures her that you're still emotionally tethered, still available, even if only in the shadows. But then comes the day when everything shifts. The day you disappear, not just from her life, but from her digital world as well. When she notices that her stories no longer show your name. When her carefully crafted posts no longer catch your eye. When she realizes that the one person she expected to always be watching isn't anymore. That's when a very different feeling settles in. Not comfort, but discomfort. Not confidence, but doubt. Because a woman knows that when a man truly withdraws, his presence, especially the silent, unseen presence she took for granted, it signals something far more serious than words could express. A stoic man doesn't linger where he's no longer appreciated. He understands that attention is currency, and a wise man doesn't invest it where there's no return, where it's treated as a guarantee, rather than the gift it truly is. Because a man who values his peace knows that even watching from afar is still a form of attachment, and attachment, when unreciprocated, only drains you. And that's when fear creeps in. Not because you blocked her, not because you announced your departure or made a dramatic exit, but because you quietly did the one thing she didn't expect. You withdrew everything. Your words, your attention, your unseen presence. The very presence she assumed would always remain, even if she kept you at arm's length. When a man chooses to focus forward, when he no longer offers his attention as a silent comfort, he becomes something rare. A man who doesn't need closure, doesn't need reminders, and certainly doesn't need to stay connected just to feel significant. And that's when she realizes you're gone in the only way that truly matters. Not just out of sight, but out of emotional reach. Number 5, the moment you glow without her. There's a certain silence that speaks louder than any words. The silence of a man who's thriving without needing to prove it. Growth isn't announced, it's noticed. And when you begin to glow without her, when your life quietly radiates success, calm confidence, and steady progress, that's when she feels it. Not because you're showing off, but because you're no longer the man who once revolved around her presence. You see, nothing unsettles someone more than realizing the person they left behind didn't just survive, they evolved. When your focus shifts inward, when you start building, improving, and mastering yourself, it becomes impossible to ignore. She'll hear about it through mutual friends, see glimpses online, or simply sense it in your absence, that you're becoming a better version of yourself, and she's no longer part of that journey. The Stoics believe that true power comes from self-mastery, from conquering your own impulses, emotions, and dependencies. Seneca once said, "The greatest empire is to rule over oneself." And that's exactly what you're doing. You're no longer driven by the need to show her what she lost. You're too focused on becoming everything you were meant to be. Now imagine how that feels from her perspective. She expected you to stall, to linger in the shadow of what was, but instead you're glowing calmly without noise, without chasing attention. And that glow isn't just about success in the external world. It's the aura of a man who has found peace, purpose, and direction without needing anyone's approval. This is the moment she fears losing you forever. Not when you went silent, not when you walked away, but when she realizes you never needed her to grow in the first place. You were always capable. You just finally chose to focus that energy on yourself. And here's the truth. A man aligned with his purpose, grounded in stoic discipline, becomes untouchable. You're no longer seeking validation from the past because you're too busy creating a future where she's just a distant memory. That quiet evolution, that inner glow, that's what lingers in her mind. Because nothing is more final than watching someone outgrow you gracefully. Number 6, when you stop responding to her texts. She knows exactly what she's doing when she sends those mixed signals, delayed replies, or playful provocations. It's not always malicious, it's instinct. Women test to see where you stand, to measure your emotional stability, to check if they still hold influence over you. Most men take the bait. They react. They question. They try to fix the situation, proving they're still emotionally invested. But when you stop responding to her tests, when you meet every game with calm indifference, that's when everything changes. You see, silence in the face of provocation isn't weakness, it's mastery. When you no longer feel the need to decode her behavior or chase clarity, she senses something she didn't expect. You've outgrown the dynamic. What once worked no longer moves you. You're not cold. You're simply above it. Epictetus said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." And when you choose not to respond at all, when you remain grounded, unshaken by the little tests she throws your way, you embody true freedom. You prove that your emotions aren't tied to her approval, her attention, or her attempts to stir a reaction. Now imagine her perspective. She sends a vague message, maybe hints at something to spark jealousy or creates distance just to see if you'll chase. But instead of reacting, you stay still. You carry on with your life as if nothing happened because to you it didn't. That's when the fear creeps in. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're genuinely unmoved. She realizes you're no longer participating in the silent game she was counting on. You've detached not with resentment but with quiet strength. You've embraced the Stoic truth that peace comes when you stop trying to control or interpret the behavior of others. And once a man reaches that level of composure, he becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability breeds attraction, but also fear. Fear that she's no longer in control. Fear that you're truly free, not just from her games, but from needing anything outside of yourself to feel whole. Number 7, when your presence becomes a privilege, not a habit. In the beginning, she became comfortable, too comfortable with your presence. Your messages came without delay. Your attention flowed effortlessly, and your availability was something she never had to question. It wasn't just appreciated, it became routine, a constant she could rely on. But then something shifted. You woke up to a truth that few men recognize early enough. That attention given freely and without discernment loses its value. And when you made that shift, when your attention was no longer automatic but intentional, everything changed. Suddenly, your presence wasn't a daily habit she could take for granted. It became something far more powerful, a privilege she now had to earn. You see, a Stoic man understands the weight of his time, his focus, and his energy. He doesn't scatter it carelessly, especially not on someone who's grown complacent with it. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" And that wisdom doesn't just apply to tasks or thoughts. It applies to where and to whom you choose to give pieces of yourself. When you begin to move through life with purpose, when you stop being endlessly available, that shift doesn't go unnoticed. Women are intuitive. They feel when a man reclaims his focus. Now she starts to sense the difference. The messages that once arrived like clockwork are fewer, more deliberate. You're no longer the first to initiate, no longer waiting by the phone for her sporadic replies. But here's the key. It's not because you're playing games or trying to trigger a reaction. It's because you've realized something far more important. Your attention is a gift, not a given. Your focus now belongs to what truly matters. Your growth, your peace, your mission. And in that quiet recalibration, a subtle but powerful message is sent. She no longer has the effortless access she once enjoyed. Your presence becomes a privilege the moment you recognize that not everyone deserves front-row access to your life. And when she realizes that she's no longer entitled to it, that she must now earn what she once received effortlessly, that's when the real fear sets in, because nothing unsettles someone more than realizing they've been gradually removed from a place they thought was permanent. But understand this, a Stoic man doesn't pull back to punish or manipulate. He pulls back because he knows a timeless truth. What is abundant is often undervalued. By becoming more selective, by offering your time and energy only where it's genuinely respected and reciprocated, you transform in her eyes from being predictable to being priceless. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to reflect. Are you giving your attention as a habit or as a conscious choice? Remember, value isn't found in constant availability. It's found in purposeful presence. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this shift. How have you seen people respond when you started valuing your time more? Drop a comment below or simply type, "My presence is a privilege," if you're embracing this mindset. And now let's dive deeper into how this quiet change doesn't just command respect. It reignites attraction in ways words never could. Number 8. When you're genuinely indifferent, not pretending. There's a clear difference between a man who acts indifferent and a man who is indifferent. Women can feel it instantly. You can't fake true detachment. No matter how long you delay your replies, how busy you pretend to be, or how much you try to appear unaffected, if deep down you're still hoping she'll notice, still waiting for a sign, she'll sense it, and she won't fear losing you because she knows you're still emotionally tied. But when your indifference is real, when you've genuinely let go, when you've stopped caring, not out of spite, but because your life has expanded beyond her, that's when everything shifts. She feels the absence not just of your presence, but of your emotional investment. And that's when fear strikes. Because a man who no longer hopes, waits, or wonders is a man she can no longer control nor predict. The Stoics had a word for this, state. Apatha, not coldness, but calm acceptance. It's the peace that comes when you no longer allow external things, especially the actions of others, to disturb your inner world. You're not pretending to be over her. You are over her. You filled your life with purpose, growth, and self-mastery, leaving no room for emotional games or silent longing. Now imagine her realization. She sends a message expecting a subtle eagerness beneath your calm reply, but it's not there. She posts something expecting you to notice, but you don't even look. She thought time and distance would make you act detached. But now she sees you've become detached, and that unsettles her more than anything. When you embody true Stoic indifference, you don't need to prove that you're fine. Your actions, your calm demeanor, and your lack of emotional reactivity say it all. And once she realizes that she's no longer the center of your thoughts, that she's become just another passing chapter in a story that's moving forward without her, that's when the fear becomes real. Because a man who truly doesn't need her attention is a man she knows she can never pull back. Number 9. When you no longer fit into her future plans. There was a time when she confidently pictured you in her future, Whether it was unspoken or part of casual conversations about someday in her mind, no matter the ups and downs, you'd always be there waiting, a constant presence she could count on. But something changes when she senses that you have stopped imagining that future together. When your eyes are no longer fixed on a shared path but firmly set on your own journey, that's when reality hits her. You're no longer making plans that revolve around her. You're not thinking about how to align your life with hers. Instead, you're building a future that's defined by your ambitions, your growth, and your peace, whether she's in it or not. And that quiet shift doesn't go unnoticed. She feels it in your words and your actions, and even more in your absence. Suddenly, the man she assumed would always be part of her story is writing a different narrative, one where she's no longer a central character. Seneca wisely said, "The wise man lives for himself, not in selfishness, but in understanding that your life's purpose isn't to fit into someone else's expectations or timelines." A Stoic man knows that true fulfillment comes from walking his own path, guided by his values, not by seeking approval or holding on to people who no longer align with his vision. Now imagine how that feels from her perspective. She thought she had time, that no matter the distance or detachment, you'd always envision a future where she could return, where things could work out eventually. But when she realizes that you've moved beyond that hope, that you no longer see her in the picture you're painting for your life, that's when fear creeps in. Because losing someone in the present is one thing, but knowing you've been erased from their future, that's permanent. You've stopped living in anticipation of what could be with her, and started fully investing in what will be for yourself. And once a man reaches that point where his future is driven by purpose, not by the lingering presence of someone who once mattered, there's no turning back. She realizes she's no longer part of the destination you're headed toward. And that quiet, irreversible shift is what truly makes her fear that she's lost you for good. Number 10, when she realizes you've let go. Truly, there's a moment that hits harder than any silence, any distance, or any unanswered message. The moment she feels that you've truly let go, not the kind of letting go where you secretly hope she'll notice and come running back. Not the performative detachment where you're still checking your phone wondering if she's thinking about you. No, this is different. This is when you release her from your mind and heart completely, not out of resentment, but because you found something far more valuable than her presence, your peace. You see, most women are used to men holding on even after things fall apart. Holding on through subtle signs, watching her stories, replying when she reaches out, keeping that emotional door slightly open just in case. But when you stop doing any of that, when you no longer feel the need to, she senses it immediately. There's no energy pulling her back, no invisible string connecting you, it's just gone. And that's when fear grips her, because she knows this isn't a phase or a tactic to get a reaction. This isn't you trying to teach her a lesson. This is acceptance. The kind the Stoics built their lives around. Like Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. You've accepted what happened, released what you cannot change, and in doing so, you've freed yourself not just from her, but from the weight of waiting, hoping, or needing closure. Now imagine her realization. She reaches out with a casual message, and you don't respond. Not because you're bitter, but because you've moved past the point where engaging serves your peace. She posts something half expecting you to notice, but deep down she knows you're no longer watching. She mentions you to a friend only to hear that you've been focused on your own life, unbothered and unchained by the past. This is the moment she fears losing you forever, when it's clear that your detachment isn't temporary, it's permanent. You're not waiting for a comeback, not leaving a door open, not entertaining what-ifs. You've closed that chapter with grace, and more importantly, with indifference. Because once a man embraces true Stoic detachment, once he finds freedom through acceptance, there's no need to look back, and she knows it. She knows she's no longer on your mind. Not because you tried to erase her, but because you simply outgrew the need to hold on. That's when it sinks in. This isn't a pause. This isn't space to reconnect later. This is final, and nothing terrifies someone more than realizing they've been truly released by the one person who once cared. Because once a man lets go for real, he never reaches back. So if you're wondering when she truly fears losing you, it's not when you try harder. It's when you stop trying altogether. It's when your silence, your growth, and your inner peace speak louder than any words ever could. Remember, a Stoic man doesn't chase. He doesn't beg. He simply walks forward with calm confidence, knowing that what's meant for him will never require him to sacrifice his dignity. If this message resonated with you, drop a comment below. I choose peace over approval, to remind yourself and others of where true strength comes from. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights on mastering yourself and your relationships. I'll see you in the next one.